The next thing that we're going to be talking about is spheres. Okay, sphere is just basically a 3D version of a circle. So, like a circle, a sphere has a radius and diameter measure. If you split the sphere into two equal parts, you have a hemisphere. And the circle that cuts through the center of a sphere is called the great circle. So, a great circle is, if you were to cut the sphere in half right through the center and pick it up and look at it, cut a ball in half and pick it up and look at it, that circle you'd be looking at is the great circle. The great circle has the exact same radius measure as a sphere. Spheres are often drawn just as circles with this oval, dotted oval throughout the center of it. A center is marked, and this purple line would represent the radius. Now keep in mind, this goes in 3D, so it can go out. If they were to draw a second one in that looks like this, for example, okay, this would have the exact same measure as that because it's supposedly coming out towards you. Typically, though, you'll just see the one that cuts across to the side. Now, because the great circle has the same radius measure as the sphere, if they were to give you the circumference of the great circle, you'd be able to find, for example, the volume of a sphere. Which volume of a sphere is really the only formula that we're going to be looking at with spheres. There is a surface area formula, but for our unit, we're not having to use that. So, the volume is the amount of space inside an object, any object. But with spheres, the volume is represented by the letter V, and the formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. Now keep in mind what I always said about the units. Whatever units you're using, whatever you do to r, you do to those units. So we represent this in inches cubed, cubic feet, and our units will also have a cubed with it because our r has a cubed with it. So it can also look like this. So 4/3 pi r cubed, or 4 pi r cubed all divided by 3. Mathematically, it's the exact same thing. So, given information about a sphere, you would need to find the radius and plug it into the formula. So, notice that the radius is being cubed, and that's what I was saying earlier, so the units are going to be in cubic units and we'll always have an exponent of 3. So, if you were given an example like this, where the radius is 10 inches, you would just plug it into r in your formula, plug this whole thing directly into your calculator, and your volume is 1,333.3 pi cubic inches, or if you hit that other button or went ahead and multiplied it out, it'd be 4188.8 cubic inches. And that is the volume of a sphere that has a radius of 10 inches. So sometimes you have to go backwards. So when you're going backwards, you're going to need to take the cube root in your calculator. So if the volume of a sphere is, and it tells you here, there's 5,125 cubic feet. That's the volume. Now it will ask you find the radius. So in this formula, the very first thing we're going to need to do is get rid of the divided by 3 part. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Then I have 15,375 equals 4 pi r cubed. Well, to get rid of the 4, we divide both sides by 4. So then we've got 3,843.75 equals pi r cubed. So we divide out the pi and we're left with 1,223.5 equals r cubed. Well, to get rid of it, we take the cube root. Alright, so you got that cube root function. Now, in your calculator, and this is a slightly different one than what we've been using, this one, and they both do actually, have this button right here that has this little x over a root. So I'm going to type in 3, and then I'm going to get to that function right there, and see how it pops it up in the cube root? So I'm going to take the cube root of 1223.5 and hit enter, and so it's 10.695, approximately 10.7, and I rounded it to 10.6, it should be rounded up to 7. So approximately 10.7 is your radius, or 10.69 is your radius. And again, we had to use that cube root function, which is the little x to the square root power. In this case, in this calculator, it's over the to the button, but it's somewhere on your calculator. You can find it, or I'll show you in class.